5 minutes after the hour, which means it's time to start our webinar. My name is Jimmy Risch, and I will be your host for today. And today we're going to be talking about managing workflows in DBXL. We're going to be showing you some features that you might not have known about before, and how that you can make use of them. So we're talking about workflows, and that involves assigning forms between people, changing their status, and things like that. So there are a couple of scenarios that we generally want to cover by using these workflows. We want to be able to assign forms between people, for example, for an approval process, if you've got an expense report or a timesheet, or other business processes like that, that often involves assignment between people. So that's a good use for a workflow. You want to be able to change the form's status. You want to be able to approve forms, reject them, postpone them, things like that. And ideally, you should be able to do this without having to modify the contents of the form. So, for example, if you've got a dashboard for managing your forms, you can a good workflow will allow you to go through quickly and sort of modify their status without having to actually modify their contents. We're going to show you ways that DBXL helps you do that. Minimize conflicting overwrites. This is similar to the previous bullet, but if you have a situation where you have to modify the contents of your forms in order to do your approval processes and things like that, you run the risk of having one person overwrite some changes that a previous person has done and just completely wipe out their changes. The technique I'm going to be showing you today allows you to avoid that for the most part. And then automated email notifications. DBXL has a workflow feature that will allow you to trigger off emails when you do a workflow. So the feature that's in it, this comes built in with DBXL. It's called Qdabra Flow, and this feature basically makes use of DBXL's intrinsic features in order to do its operation. It's implemented as a document type within DBXL, and then it has some database tables and views in the databases that come with DBXL. So I'll just quickly show you what those look like. So I have the DAT admin tool open here, and some people don't know this, but there's a little triangle you can click here to see system document types. And down here we have QD email flow. You usually don't need to open this document type up, but just know that it's there, and making use of this feature involves submitting documents to this document type. And then on the sort of further on the back end, DBXL comes with this database called Qdabra Utility, which comes with a whole bunch of stuff that allows you to do various things, and one of which is this workflow. So the most critical portion of this Qdabra Flow feature is the Qdabra Flow table, and basically the Qdabra Flow document type uses a database mapping, same way your document types would in DBXL. And quite simply, it maps out data to this Qdabra Flow table, just a bunch of columns, and there are a couple of other tables involved as well. But we're going to be mainly talking about this Qdabra Flow table. Now, when you submit a Qdabra Flow document, Basically, a single document is a single workflow action. So if you want to assign a document to somebody, change its status, that's a single action. That would be a single row in this table. Then if another person did another action, that would be another row. So rather than overwriting things in this table, you're basically building up a history of all the actions that have been taken. And this allows you to query the workflow history for a particular document and see what has happened to it. You can see some of the columns here are self-explanatory, but an important one is this first column, the host doc ID, which is basically the ID of whichever document is being assigned from person to person. You've got some columns for the assignee, the status, the date and time it took place, and comments and things like that. Okay. Another important component here you'll find underneath the views. We've got this view called Qdabra Flow latest. And as I just mentioned, what Qdabra Flow does is it builds up several rows as each action takes place. So a single document in DBXL could have multiple workflow actions, multiple rows associated with it in the Qdabra Flow table. What Qdabra Flow latest does is it figures out which is the most recent action and just presents that. So that way you know what the current status and assignee of any given document are. And we're going to be seeing a bit more of that later on. So here is the doc type and table, and here is that Qdabra Flow latest view, which for the most part has the same columns as Qdabra Flow with I guess host doc type is an extra one that's sort of aggregated in there. Okay, so we're going to talk about two scenarios today of using this Qdabra Flow. One is using it within a form itself, and the other is using it within a dashboard form. So for today's demo, we're going to be using our trusty expense report form that I'm sure you've seen before if you've been to many of our webinars. So I'll open this up here. So what I've done here is I've taken the expense report that that's included with DBXL, and I've actually added an XTP, which is an XML template part. It's basically a way of putting a piece of functionality into your form all at once with controls and data connections and logic associated with it. So we're going to be sending out that XTP with the webinar materials today, and you can try it out and try to add it to your form. So what we've basically got here is the XTP comes with a few data connections. It's got one for querying user info for the assignee and for the current user. It's got some functionality for querying the assignment history and some other logic like that. And then on the submit button, we've added a few rules to basically trigger off that Qdabra Flow functionality. Now, we're using another feature here that many of you may not be familiar with, which is DBXL's XML to XML mapping feature. What this allows you to do is submit a document to DBXL, and there's basically a child document contained within that that when DBXL receives the main document, it finds that within it and then takes that inner piece and creates a separate document with it. So basically what's going to happen is when I submit this expense report to DBXL, DBXL will find this Qd Flow XTP piece inside of it, and it's going to create a Qd email flow document using this My Fields group here. And it has a few attributes here for controlling how that works. Submit action tells DBXL whether to actually create or update a document. Doc ID tells it whether to which document to overwrite, if it is. In the case of Qd Flow, we don't actually overwrite Qd email flow documents. We only create them. We build up that history of assignment and status changes. So we're only going to be creating documents. So that's the general concept. Now, if you're interested in how that XML to XML mapping works, basically there's another system doc type included in DBXL called QD subdocument mapping. Yes, I'll discard these changes. Okay, so QD subdocument mapping, this is where you configure these XML to XML mappings. And what I've done here is I've created one for Qd Flow. So basically the mapping has a name. This corresponds to the portion that comes after this QDXTP underscore prefix here. That has to match the value in that field. Target document type is the document type where I want to spawn these child documents. Namespace is usually populated automatically. And what I'm doing here is I'm saying that I want the document ID of the parent document to be stuffed into this host doc ID field here. So why am I, you might be wondering, why am I using this XML mapping feature and this instead of just submitting the document to the expense report to DBXL and then submitting the QD flow. Now the reason I'm doing that is that when I submit the main document, I don't have a great way of figuring out what its document ID is. And I need that in order to be able to set its status using QD Flow. So if I make use of this feature and I use this host field mapping, I can tell DBXL to put the host doc ID into that field, and then everything works very nicely. So let's demo that out here. I'm gonna go to my expense report form. So I've got this QD expense report QD flow. I'll open that up. All right, so I'm gonna just use a fake name. I'm gonna put my own name as the assignee. The reason I'm going to do that is this is going to trigger off an email notification, and I want to show you guys what that looks like. Okay, so I'm just going to put an expense in here. All right, I'll submit. Oh. Okay, I know why this is happening. I'm not connected to my VPN. Okay, let's try that again. Okay. and I will submit that. So as I'm submitting, this is figuring out my username and display name, and also the username and email and display name for the manager that I entered in here, and that's going to put the values into the relevant fields. That's all built into that Qd Flow XTP that I was mentioning. And since I'm far away from my AD system, the AD service takes a little while, but most people would experience that a lot faster. All right, so if we come in here, in the Qd expense report, we can see my newly submitted expense report with document ID 2321. We see that I got an email notification telling me that a document had been assigned to me. It gives me a link to open up the document from DBXL. And then if I come over here to the database and refresh this Qd Flow latest, we can see that I have a document right here. The host is 2321. I've got the doc type name, the status, and everything involved with that. So so there I have submitted the document and done a status change. If I had been actually assigning it to another user, manager, that user would have gotten the email notification and it would be assigned to them. Now let's reopen this document. And I've designed this form so that when it's reopened with the submitted status, it shows these approval and rejection buttons. And so what these do is they will resubmit the form, and they also carry out a Qd Flow action. So let's say I click approve here. So this is going to submit the form yet again, and in Qd Flow. So if I look in the Qd Flow table here, we see that I now have 2 rows for that host document. One is the submitted status, and the second one is the approved status. And if I look here in the latest view, I see just that latest action for approved, and the assignee is accounting. So that's how you can use Qd Flow within a form. One little piece that you didn't see here, sort of working behind the scenes, is that when this form reopens, it queries what's in that table and pulls the status and assignee into the form. So if the form had been reassigned externally to this document, then the form would know that as soon as it loaded in those values. And that is a concept we're going to be looking at right now. So as I said, we use this XML mapping to enable the ability to submit those documents from within. There's this Qd Flow XCP that we've designed for using within a form. It's got data connections and a few fields and instructions for setting it up. I encourage you to try that out. And here is that data structure that we were looking at of how the XTP looks within the form. Okay, and there we did the demo. So let's say we want to abstract at a level and actually manage multiple documents at once instead of having to open them up individually. Let's say we wanted a dashboard that we could use to manage documents workflow. Well, that's exactly what we can do. Here's a simple screenshot of a dashboard I'm going to show you momentarily. So let's just demo that dashboard and then we'll get into the specifics. So I'm going to go to the catalog, open up the dashboard. Okay. All right, so I have set up this dashboard to query expense reports that are in a status of submitted. So the idea is that some manager could open this up, view the expense reports, their totals. They could open up the expense reports by using this link here, and then they just click a button to approve or reject the expense report. So this one's only $12, so I'm going to approve that. All right. And then I come over here to my database, and the one that I just approved is 2314. Before refreshing the contents of this view, I can see that it's in status submitted and assigned to me. Now if I refresh this, here it is at the bottom. The status has changed to approved, and the assigned to alias is accounting. So how did we do that? Let's look at the implementation of the dashboard. Now the dashboard, it's querying this table using a QueryDB data connection. So here we've got query reports. This is querying a view in the database that has both some data about the expense reports and some data about its current status. So we've got doc ID, employee name, the total amount of the expense report, a link to the expense report, which is what I'm using to populate this link here, the status, and the assignee. So the way we're able to query both the expense reports values and the status at once is that I've put together a simple view here in SQL Server specifically for that purpose. And I imagine that many of you have varying degrees of experience with working with databases, but it's actually pretty easy to set up a view like this once you've seen an example. Okay, I didn't mean to click design, so I'm going to close this. We'll just look at the raw SQL here. And we can look at the design as well. But basically what I'm doing here is I'm querying the expense report table, which has the basic values for expense report. I'm joining that with expense report employee, which contains the employee for an expense report. You might not have a situation like this for your data. You might have it all in one table. And then I'm just sort of joining that with the contents of the Qdabra Flow latest view, matching up the expense reports document ID against the host document ID in the Qdabra Flow latest view. And then just once that's all joined up, I'm listing out which columns I want from there. So 3 of these are from the expense report table, 1 is from the expense report employee table, and I think 7 are from Qdabra Flow latest. And we can sort of visualize how that's set up. SQL Server Management Studio provides this visualizer to set up a view. So we see that we see how everything is sort of joined to each other here. So once we have that view in the database, we can use DBXL's QueryDB web service to query data from it, and then just display it in our form. Now, as for how these buttons are implemented, these are using yet another XTP. It's one that's designed specifically for dashboards. So basically, once you've added the XTP to your form, all this button needs to do is take the values from its current row that it needs. So I'm copying the host.id, a comment, status, and I'm putting one status into the XTP's data source and one status into the row of this table. I'm setting the assignee, and then I have one more action that just sort of triggers everything off by activating a field in the XTP. And so with these 6 rule actions, I'm able to trigger off a Qdabra Flow action, and that does the approval. So if I close this dashboard, and I'm going to reopen it from DAT. And so that first entry is no longer here because it's no longer in the submitted status. And I can go ahead and reject this expense report, and that gets rejected as well. We can see that down here. So that is an overview of how you can use DBXL's built-in features to speed up your processes and sort of set up workflow and assignment to keep your forms running. I recommend trying it out. It's relatively easy to understand once you start using it, and we use it a lot in our own processes and in our customers' processes. Now, today's demos were carried out entirely codelessly. We have our QRules product that we like to use, but today we weren't using QRules. If you do have QRules in your form, there's a command in there that you can take advantage of. It's called assign document. Now, if you use assign document, you just specify the parameters you need. You specify the name of a data connection, the document ID you want to assign, status, assignee, and things like that. And then QRules will take care of the whole process of carrying out that assignment. No need to use XTPs and things like that if you have this feature. So make use of that if you have Qdabra Flow. So that's it for today's webinar. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. So type them in right now, and if not, we'll call it a day. All right, it looks like we don't have any questions today. If you do have questions after the fact, please feel free to contact us. We're always glad to provide assistance on DBXL and how to use it. So we hope to be hearing from you. Bye for now.